Right, so footwear is a key. It's the orthotic plus the footwear that does the job, right? And the other thing is that patients will, if you say to someone, well, your trainers are poor, they'll say, well, which one would you recommend? What features do I need? What type of shoe do I need? What model do I need? Right? And that goes for all the different sports. And if you think about some of the specialist sports, like skiing, for example, cycling, each sport has requirements for its footwear. So you're going to look a bit stupid if you don't know anything about the footwear that you're going to be putting an orthotic device into. Right? So this is what I'm going to try and talk about this morning. Fortunately, most of the people that we see by far the majority of people's footwear is running shoes, because a lot of shoes involve running sport. So, but there are different types which you need to be aware of, and they present various problems. So you can have a sort of general trainer, which you're all familiar with, and then you can get things called racing shoes, which are a lightweight version of a trainer for racing in. And then you can get things like spikes, which are specifically designed for a running track, right? And there are other ones. You get sort of trail shoes and fell running shoes, trail, all sorts of ones. But usually it's either a trainer, a lighter weight shoe, or a spike, or a specialist shoe for some other slightly different function. Perhaps you're running off-road, you need something with a bit more grip. It needs to be able to allow you to come downhill without going over on your ankle, so it needs to have features that allow the foot to adapt to the surface. Right, and then you'll hear various terms bandied about, and probably the one that we encounter most often is people talk about a neutral shoe, or a control shoe. Right, basically, and the issue with this is that if you go to a running shop with orthotics, they will not want to sell you a control shoe if you're going to be wearing orthotics, right? So they're obsessed with this thing about a neutral shoe and orthotics. A neutral shoe, as its name suggests, doesn't have any features really built into it to increase the control on the foot. And by controlling the foot, we really mean to resist pronation, right? A control shoe will have various features in it which will try to help resist pronation. But it is very much a passive sort of system. Shoes generally do not alter the position of the foot. They don't tilt the foot or control it in any particular way, apart from just resisting the amount of collapse. So it's a stiffer shoe, it's got features that will resist pronation, and it won't collapse as easily, right? I don't have a problem in putting orthotics into a control shoe if the patient has such severe pronation that you need the shoe plus the orthotic to do the job. Okay. And there are various other things that you can look at. The last that the shoe's made on, you can have a straight last, or you can have an adducted last. So this is the shape that the shoe's been manufactured on, right? And essentially what this means is that some shoes are made fairly straight like that, and they usually have inbuilt features of they've been a bit broader as well. And basically this straight lasted shoe is more appropriate for someone who's a pronator, for example. And And then you can get this adducted last shoe, which is a bit like this. I'm exaggerating it, but that's what you call an adducted last shoe. And that's designed more for supinators. If you remember when we talked about the shape of the foot, you can draw around the foot in a supinated position, you can draw around it in a pronated position, and this is the sort of picture that you will get. The other thing is that the faster you run, if you're running on your toes, for example, the foot tends to supinate more, so it takes up more of an adducted shape. So if you look at racing shoes and spikes, you'll see that they're built along that sort of on a last pattern that is more adducted. And also, female feet tend to have a bit more adduction to them as well. So if you're looking at a foot for a female, shoe for a female runner, there generally tends to be a little bit more adduction in the shoe for a female foot. And there are differences in heel shape and proportion as well. So, if we look at the basic the running shoe, the key element is the midsole, right? So this is the midsole. And if you think about running, everybody needs some cushioning and everybody needs control for the foot, right? So what they try and do is to build different shoes with different proportions of cushioning and control. So if you're very much a pronator, you want the shoe to have more control features. If you're a supinator, you'll want more cushioning built into the shoe. It's the proportion of those two things that can be varied. Right? So the midsole of the shoe, with this wedge shape, possibly 1.5 centimetres, 2 centimetres thick at the back here, tapering at the front. This is the bit that can be modified to give you various characteristics. So very often it's made of EVA, but it can be made of polyurethane. Right? And by varying the density of this, you can alter the cushioning and control characteristics of the shoes. And